Hi, my name is Hannah, and today we're interviewing Chris. Originally from the UK, Chris is now based in Singapore. Chris is known as the only CEO with a Mohawk. Author of 4 books, he is also known as the LinkedIn rockstar. Today he gives us his view on key trends that require our attention as we emerge into a post-pandemic world.
This podcast channel is about you, successful international entrepreneurs, successful expats, successful investors. Sponsored by HCJ.tax.
And we're live. Chris, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. It's a bright, sunny, beautiful day in Singapore.
Wonderful. Please, can you introduce yourself to those who may be listening or watching you?
Yes, I am Chris J. Reid. I'm the only CEO, normally with a Mohawk, but I've been at home for 3 months now, not able to go out, so I haven't got a Mohawk anymore. It's just a little thing up there. I've got a Mohawk on my beard now. What a friend of mine called the COVID-19 beard. And I run a company called Black Marketing, as you can see behind me, and we've been going for nearly a decade now. And we meet people like you, rock stars. Obviously not you, because you're already a rock star on LinkedIn. The mere mortals out there who are not Derren, then basically we make you a rock star. We do your LinkedIn, we do your personal branding, we optimize your profile, we write your content, and we do your social selling. A lot of entrepreneurs at the moment want to do a lot of social selling, for example. So we basically do the things that people don't have the time to do.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I think I met you like 7 years ago when I first moved to Singapore.
Yeah, at Uptown, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. And listening to you, watching your presentations, I've seen you present in a couple chambers, and it really opened my mind and my eyes up to the power of LinkedIn. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, you've got, I don't know what you had when I met you, but it wasn't 54,000, which is what you've got now, which is fantastic. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. So obviously what we're all going through right now is unprecedented, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everyone has ideas as to what the implications would be. So what are your thoughts as to what the post-pandemic business world looks like?
I mean, basically for us, we're seeing our corporates and our masterclass and our big corporates going down like that, but we're seeing individuals and entrepreneurs and SMEs going up like that, particularly ones that are not connected to, obviously, hospitality and travel. So we've got a lot of clients now picking up with lots of freelance clients, but companies who run freelance networks, for example, cloud clients, for example, anything to do with tech on the cloud, content on the cloud. So anything that's basically on the cloud or tech is going through the roof. And we're finding that, anything to do with networking, connecting, anything that basically doesn't involve traveling somewhere or meeting someone in the real world, we're finding that's going up, but all our big corporates going down, for example. So we had a big client, for example, that was based on traveling from one country to the other country to learn. Obviously, that's not happening anymore. Yeah. So they're completely screwed. They have to go back, or they have to go reinvent their model. But then other companies are going through the roof, as you've seen with people like Zoom and so forth. There are companies benefiting from this because people are needing to still connect like this, but they don't know what to do. And obviously, platforms like LinkedIn are perfect for that in terms of people saying, well, okay, I need to hit my sales target. How do I do that when I can't go out? Well, you can do that through LinkedIn, which is what obviously you and I know for many, many, many years. But other people are realizing actually it's a fantastic place to go, and it's very, very targeted. So I'm very optimistic about the way of doing it. It's just another challenge. There's always been challenges, whether it's been September the 11th or whether it's been SARS here in Asia. Or I don't know, were you around here when we had SARS?
No, that's before me. Yeah.
I mean, neither was I. It was two before me, but I hear legendary tales about how they overcame it, for example, and it was only in the West. It wasn't in the East. But it was only in the East, not the West.
Yes.
And they overcame that, and there was a lot more deaths in Singapore, for example. There are now 10 times more deaths than there are now. So Singapore really learned the lessons, China learned the lessons, for example. That's when we managed to come out of it. So I'm very optimistic. I think there's much more, and for entrepreneurs like you and I, there's much more opportunities in terms of we're nimble, we're effective, we can iterate, we can change, we can move around. We've always been on the cloud, we've always been remote. I mean, my team were already working remotely before this happened. Most of my clients are not in Singapore. I was talking to them on Zoom in Zurich and San Francisco and London and and Germany before this happened. So to me, it's like, well, I didn't really change apart from that I can't meet my team in the co-working space for it. But everyone's going to have to kind of just iterate and innovate to a new normal. And people like you and I, they're still going to need tax, they're still going to need marketing, they still need sales. So you still need a personal brand. Or actually, we're finding more and more people realize they do need a personal brand now, because their personal brand is no longer physical; it's now online. And that's absolutely key. You can no longer do an event where your personal brand shines out to do a networking or meet someone over lunch. That isn't happening anymore. So now your personal brand is, if I Google you and your LinkedIn profile comes up, what impression does it give? Is it negative like yours? Sorry, like most people's, or positive like yours? Like mine, for example. People go, wow, he's got 3 books, he's got 2 books, he's an entrepreneur, he's got 54,000 connections, for example. He's got a complete profile like yours has, he's got recommendations like you have, for example. Or does it have nothing there and you have a negative impression, you go on to somebody else? And it makes it easier for the customers, clients, the B2B world to choose somebody else if you haven't bothered to actually invest. You clearly have invested, I've invested, our clients have invested, so the opportunity is for everybody listening to this to invest themselves.
Okay, so I hear like different perspective. There's some people that believe that we will return to the status quo where we will have like chamber networking events and stuff like that. And then the people that say, forget it, that's gone. Social distancing is here to stay. And it does seem as if Singapore may be adopting that perspective. You know what?
Yeah.
Social distancing is the thing right now. Forget how you used to do it. What are your thoughts? Which camp do you fit into?
I totally agree. If you listen to the Prime Minister the other day in the series of talks, for example, where this is going to be a long, long time. I mean, he even said in his speech, you're no longer be able to take a trip to Bali and to Phuket. You're no longer able to go to Bangkok and to Sydney overnight or for the weekend. That isn't going to happen. So the whole way of Singapore, and Changi Airport is going to be completely different. Singapore Airlines completely different in their philosophy, how they work. And I agree. He's not going to be having any events or any concerts or any. Nothing's going to be going on. There's a reason why people like Microsoft and Twitter and Google and Adobe are saying everyone's going to work from home forever. Because they've now realized that basically we can't be doing this. And actually interesting, we picked up a client the other day from London whose whole business was events. And he lost £3 million in 8 days, Derren. £3 million. But he went, okay, I'm a smart entrepreneur. Flipped his business, becoming the #1 virtual events agency. And suddenly picked up Apple, Google, Facebook, Adobe, and suddenly £1.5 million had come back the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Whilst other people were going, oh, what do I do? He was nimble enough to go, you know what? That's screwed. That's the old model. New model's virtual. Now, if I can present myself as the virtual, which they've been doing for many, many years anyway, but nobody's been buying it, suddenly all the stuff he's been doing with virtual events had come back. And now he's being appointed as an events agency, the virtual events agency. Because there's no competition. People like Ogilvy are out there going, oh, well, what happened to the other events? What happened to experiential? And they're going, they didn't have a virtual arm, whereas this guy had a virtual arm already there, but nobody wanted it. So I think entrepreneurs are always going to be quite nimble. But I agree with you. I agree with what you just said there, is that you're not going to be going back to networking events or concerts or sports or any of those things in the near future, especially not in Singapore, because it just takes 1 or 2 people to come in.
Yeah.
Someone like the US or Brazil, which is obviously has no control whatsoever, or the UK, has no control over the virus, and then it spreads again. We've been very lucky here in Singapore. We've only had 26 deaths out of our 40,000 cases, so very, very lucky. I think one of the lowest death rates in the world, because of our healthcare, as you know, Derren, fantastic healthcare here. So I think basically they will protect that, just like Hong Kong is, just like Australia is, New Zealand is. And they won't allow in any visitors. So I think we're seeing a world where there's going to be no traveling outside of your comfort zone. So you're going to have the EU, you're going to have America, you're going to have, Latin America, you're going to have Australia, New Zealand, you're going to have China, you're going to have maybe bits of ASEAN, for example, places around Vietnam, which had no deaths, for example. But you're not going to have any big events anytime. So people are going to have to get used to this being several years.
Okay. So I'm thinking maybe that has implications to where we actually base. I mean, it's work from home, but would people be asking themselves, do I need to be in a high cost jurisdiction like Singapore, or do I need to have an office and an apartment in the center of London? Maybe I can be in Bali, or maybe I could be in Brighton,
Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree. We have a couple of our clients who are in Bali. And basically, they've decided that basically they might as well stay there because they can pay Singapore rents or they can pay Bali rents, and they've got like 10 times the space, and they've got the beach, and they've got the relaxed environment there, and they don't have to go to meetings anymore because they can do it on Zoom. But basically, I totally agree. Basically, you're going to see conurbation. I mean, that's what Singapore's biggest challenge, along with places like Hong Kong, is, well, if you don't need to be in a place like this, if you can't travel, which is obviously, as you and I both know, one of the benefits of being here is being able to pop over to Indonesia or KL or Bangkok or Manila or Hong Kong just for the weekend. If you can no longer do that, then you basically think, well, do I need to live there, or can I live in Vietnam for like a tenth of the price? Because you can have the choice. So basically, people might be choosing things with more like kind of a lifestyle viewpoint than they will kind of like a commercial and kind of professional viewpoint, because suddenly the professional viewpoint is it's Zoom.
Wow. Okay. And what about like the world of social networks? Because just stepping back, historically, this is just another media platform. The big one, LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever. Historically, we had big newspapers, and then they fractured into lots of community newspapers. And then we have, at least in the US, the big TV networks, NBS, CBC, NBC, ABC, whatever. And now they're fractured into like hundreds of niches. Do you see that happening with social media as well?
Well, I mean, like, you've got monopolies in social media. I mean, LinkedIn, for example, I get asked all the time, is there any challenger to LinkedIn? There isn't one. There's not a single one. I mean, there used to be one in Germany called Zing, but the problem with that is they didn't do anything in English, so you could only have the DACH region of Switzerland and Austria and Germany, which is great, but actually those people wanted to go outside that region, so basically Zing blew it, and LinkedIn now has more members there. We pick up, that's why I have so many clients in Germany and Switzerland, because they're not catered for in terms of LinkedIn, they're catered for in terms of Zing, but they want to target America or Asia, they can't use Zing to do that. So basically, there used to be one in France, there's some smaller ones in China, for example, but LinkedIn's the number one Western social media platform in China, with 70 million engagers and members. So I think there will be, on the other side of things, you've seen obviously TikTok come in and challenge apps of this world and the Instagrams. There'll be little niches there, and maybe there'll be more music ones, for example, or more sporting ones. Now you can't actually go to the events. Maybe those will spring up as the next big thing, but I don't see anyone challenging business. And it's a tough job. I mean, LinkedIn has always lost money. One of the reasons that it was sold to Microsoft originally is because it was losing like $1 billion a year. It's about to go bust. So Microsoft bought it, saved it, and now basically uses it for data, but apparently it still loses $1 billion a year. And you can see that basically, if you look at this revenue stream, it's like, well, it has 20% of its customers basically on subscription, everybody else is on free. They can't make money out of that. So basically, it's a tool for Microsoft to use to push their promotion, for example, and to use for their products and so forth, but it doesn't make money by itself. So it's like you got to look at where the niches are. And obviously, consumer is much more profitable. Whether consumer is profitable going forwards, of course, is another matter. Because if advertisers stop advertising, and then the moment they're going, what do we do? Do we advertise? Do we not advertise? What do we do? Because basically, consumer products, consumer behavior is that tech businesses like Microsoft and Zoom are going through the roof without any marketing. And that's a massive challenge for marketing people going, I thought I made a difference. I don't seem to make a difference anymore.
Because if I take the example you gave with Zing and being almost like very restricted or very popular within the German-speaking world and not so much outside, and then I combine that with the point that you made previously about less international business travel than before. Then, right now, obviously, LinkedIn is really popular from a business perspective in the Anglo-Saxon European world. But what about like Taiwan or China, And therefore, if I'm not being able to like go to big conventions or whatever and meet people in those business circles, and I'm not meeting them online in the social networks that I'm in, do we run a risk of being really isolated from major geographies like that?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think you're spot on. There's nothing quite like meeting someone in their country. That's why I love going to Zurich. I went to Zurich 6 times last year.
Wow.
And I loved it. People got to know me, and I built up a fantastic network, and I went out for dinners and for lunches and to their office, and you get a feel for what's going on there. It's not the same having Zoom calls. It really isn't.
Yeah.
You can't look someone in the eye. You can't relax. You know, you can't have lunch over Zoom. Where often, as you and I both know, some of the best conversations you can possibly have for business or over lunch or over a drink where an idea comes out about collaboration, you can't have that over Zoom because it's like, okay, I've got 17 Zooms today. I've got an objective for this one, this one, this one, this one. There's no time for, oh, what about this and what about that? But you're on to your next Zoom and your next Zoom, and it's all piling up because you don't have to travel.
Yeah.
As if I think, oh, well, I have to go and travel now. I could just basically click on this and click on that. It's suddenly, you know, it's all lined up. So I think you're totally right. I think we're going to miss that whole experience of traveling. And it's like a friend of mine said the other day, was that it? Was that the best the world could have offered the last 20 years when we were here in Asia and Singapore and traveling to every single country? I mean, a bit like you, Derren. I've been to every single country in Asia thanks to being in Singapore. I'd never been to anywhere before I came to Singapore. And suddenly I've gone to every single country. And people in the West go, oh, every single one of these countries. So, yeah, because I got invited to speak there, and I said yes. I got invited to speak there, and I said yes. And I tried to set up some meetings on LinkedIn, and sometimes it completely failed. Sometimes it worked. Some people said, you're mad. You charge too much. Look how many people I can employ for what you do over there. They go, oh, wow. You know, that isn't going to happen anymore, unfortunately. And you can tell, again, from what, you know, look at Singapore Airlines, which is, what does it do? Because obviously it makes all its money traveling across Asia.
So I mean, so you've just highlighted some of the serious limitations of just interacting online.
Yeah.
Is there any way of, given the present situation, is there any way that we could compensate for that? How do we get around that? How do we minimize these limitations or mitigate against them?
I mean, I can't see how you can unless you have ultimate kind of, you know, almost like a Star Trek kind of, you know, virtual. You say you're standing here with me, and we're talking like that, but it's still going to have to be virtual.
Yeah.
Because of course you can't, and we'd have to wear a mask and everything. It's like it'd just be completely pointless. I had a ridiculous Zoom call yesterday. They had a mask on. And I was going, I didn't have a mask on. I was going, what did you say? What did you say? Because they were talking into the mask, but it was because they had somebody else in their room.
Right.
And it's like, I was going, but I can't even hear what you're saying. And that's like just completely ridiculous. You can't basically be doing that. So it's like, no, so everyone's going to have to be in a single room, we've gone from co-working spaces to now going back to silos. It's like,
yeah.
It is literally back to the future.
Wow. So yeah, it just seems to be an incredible challenge from a business perspective, because you know, I'm trying to figure out, because my business model was, I mean, I know who I know, but my way of meeting more people was getting in conferences, having conversations, hosting and attending networking events. That's how I expand my circle. So I used LinkedIn to consolidate who I met.
Yeah.
So like, congratulations on your promotion or whatever, but I won't meet you on LinkedIn. I would meet you physically somewhere or the other. Now it seems to be like turned upside down. I will have to meet you virtually first off. It seems a bit.
I know it's not the same. It's not the same. And you and I both do talks, and I love it when I do a talk and there's 1,000 people or 100 people or 10 people in the room. And you then, it feels much better when you connect on LinkedIn afterwards and you share their content. Oh yeah, I know Chris, you did this project. Oh yeah, I know that person, he asked these great questions. If you can't have that, I mean, I've got a Zoom call tomorrow with 500 people, but I know that 250 people are not going to turn up.
Yeah.
Because it's a Zoom call, and they're going to go, oh, it's another Zoom call today, my 65th webinar of the week. And it's just like, so it doesn't matter. If they can just click it on and say they're on, they've ticked the box for their company who's organized this to say they're on.
Right.
I'm not going to ask them any particular questions. I'm going to ask questions from them to ask me questions, but if they don't respond, their company doesn't know they're not actually physically in the room. And you and I both know if somebody basically is on a Zoom call and not really listening, they can be doing other things at the same time. They can be on their mobile, they can be watching a video, they can be doing anything. You haven't got that full attention like you have in a room.
Yeah.
That's what I do, because I do 500 slides in like an hour, and I make sure that people can't look at them, they haven't got time to look at their phones. But I'm doing that on a Zoom call, and it's not the same, because they go, I lost, what did you say? I don't know, I'm going to go over here now to do this. So it's much harder, I think, to capture the attention of someone if you purely have this. You have like you have a laptop or you have a phone. because they have the kids in the room, because obviously everyone's homeschooling as well. You basically, you know, it's going to be very, very challenging. But as my friend said yesterday, the events guy, he said it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to innovate, to say, okay, how do we do virtual? Do we do the goggles? Do we do the AI? Do we do the virtual? He saw it very optimistically. I loved his spirit of basically having lost so much money and then seeing an opportunity and gone the other way. And I think that's what nimble entrepreneurs like you and I will do, Derren. We'll look at opportunities and say, okay, what about this? So, for example, I created a new service called the Light Service, purely for the pandemic, because so many individuals were coming to me who didn't run businesses, my normal clients, and they were saying, I just need to increase my personal branding within the company just in case I get fired, or in case I want to get promoted or headhunted, make sure people know who I am, because now I can't go and meet them. So now I'm meeting them on LinkedIn or somewhere else or on Google, so I need a good LinkedIn profile to actually make me stand out. And they don't want to be a thought leader. They don't want to generate sales because they're not in the business of that, because they work for a big multinational, but they realize that their personal brand now is this. And I think many people are realizing that your personal brand is now online. It's not offline anymore. And I think it could be many, many years until that comes back, especially when it comes to international. I mean, you and I both know that Singapore is an international hub. People would fly in to have meetings. Number one, or number two, kind of area, country in the whole of the world for events, because it's such a great airport. But what's going to happen now? You're basically going to, if it happens again, you're going to meet someone from Singapore. Like Australia, New Zealand, you're going to meet someone from Sydney because they can't even go to a different part of Australia. Or you guys over there in America, you know, you've got some kind of domestic flights, but you're not going to have anybody flying in from anywhere else, right? Because of quarantine or because of various different things. Because they're not going to want to fly, because if you come back, as you know, you're basically in quarantine when you come back. I mean, you know, this week I was supposed to be in Zurich. I was supposed to be seeing Guns N' Roses on Sunday in Zurich, but of course I cancelled. I had to cancel right at the last minute because Guns N' Roses finally cancelled about 2 weeks ago. But obviously, I was taking a risk. Had I gone there, I'd be in quarantine for 2 weeks. And if I come back, I'll also be in quarantine. So I was weighing this up: Guns N' Roses quarantine, Guns N' Roses quarantine. But the decision was made for me, and I can't, you know. So that's going to be a massive difference in terms of if people can't fly to events and networking and conferences or concerts. You know, I used to fly all around the world for concerts. I didn't come to Singapore. How does that work in terms of the economy? How does that work in terms of, you know, seeing a concert? Because seeing a concert on this is not the same as seeing it live, as you know.
Absolutely. So, having said all that, I guess the takeaways would be pay attention to your personal brand online. That is more important than it was before.
Yes.
Do not be afraid to innovate. Look for new opportunities as they arise. Yeah. Anything else I'm missing in terms of takeaways?
No, I mean, I think those are the two big things for, and this is for individuals as well as it is for entrepreneurs like you and I, because individuals are actually becoming quite entrepreneurial and reason, well, I could do this and I could do this, and there's all these freelance sites out there, so I can go and do this, and I don't need to work for somebody, because look at Freelancer or GoLance or these little Fiverr or 99 Designs. It's like suddenly you can have as much work or as little work as you want, and now your costs are decreased because you're not commuting. You're no longer having lunch at work. You're no longer taking your team out. I noticed the interesting stat the other day is that people are actually drinking less. And I thought they'd be drinking more. But the reason why is because if you go out with someone, you drink for like into the night, so into the early hours. If you're at home, you don't do that because you're by yourself or with your wife or your husband or your kids or whatever, and you might have a couple, but you go, okay, well, I'm actually not going to get drunk tonight because, well, I'm by myself.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, people have stopped. The drinking has gone down. So it's like there must be health benefits. Ironically, health benefits. Less people are getting flu. Do you know that? Less people are getting flu because obviously people have got masks on, aren't meeting anybody. So flu and things like the illness where you touch your eyes, they're all disappearing because you're obviously not meeting anybody anymore. So there's always an upside. There's always an upside, Derren.
There's always an upside. We need to be optimistic. Chris, thank you for sharing your optimism and your thoughts on the post-pandemic world. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.